Hi, this is Barbara Sanders, and I have a special guest today, Tobi Fishel, and I will tell you more about her in just a second. Um, this YouTube channel is Sacred Metamorphoses. It's been around since last summer, and I also want to announce I have a new website domain name, and it's called cosmic-mystic.com. So I'm going out there into the mystic, y'all. And anyway, today, though, I want to introduce Tobi, and we're going to have a wonderful talk about sacred activism and whatever else we want to talk about. Tobi, I've been thinking about you for the last few days preparing for this, and I don't really prepare, but the first time I met you in Nashville was
Okay.
at a person's house uh, dancing. We were dancing. And
Um,
it was a small house out in West Nashville, maybe. But anyway, we were dancing. I think you had not gotten to town much earlier than that. And I remember thinking, what an interesting, wild woman. I love it. And then what we did a few years after, or soon after that, is we and another person got together and formed the Groove Revolution, which was, I couldn't believe the name, a dance group that we would meet maybe monthly at Jamie Gritch's house, and then we'd meet other places at Art and Soul and that kind of thing. So I know you mostly early on through dancing. I know that's my heart. Um, I will say also you were like the VIP at Osher Center at Vanderbilt, and you can say more about that if you want. And then somehow fell in love and moved out to California. And I have seen you though, and I get to see you again in a few weeks because you're doing workshops still at Art and Soul here in Nashville, which is a creative art studio and beautiful, beautiful center community for people. I've also been in some of your writing circles. Tobi does a Monday night writing circle for Art and Soul, which is wonderful. And of course, there's a lawnmower outside, I hear. And anyway, so I want you to introduce yourself and tell me what you would like to talk about. That's a,
oh,
it, and
well, first of all, we
it's April
can't hear.
7th.
We
It's
can't
April.
hear.
Okay, good. It's April 7th, 2025. I forgot to say that.
May 7th.
May 7th, 2025. I've been gone to Florida for a while and I'm not
Yeah.
keeping up with the date.
I'm going
Anyway,
to orient you. I'm a psychologist. I have to orient you.
I'm back in Nashville. Okay. Thank you,
So
Tony.
first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. And Barbara and I were just chatting before we started recording, and I said this is a hug. I don't get to see her in person very often, so I'm sending a hug to you and to Nashville and all of my people and to everybody out there who wants to hear about sacred activism. What a great topic. First of all, I'm Western trained in as being a clinical and health psychologist, and then integrative psychologist. And I would say I'm also trained from many beautiful and generous teachers from many indigenous cultures in sound and music healing, in Reiki, in uh, really looking at possibility rather than pathology. That is how I see things. How can we hold people in their most beautiful, precious selves and help them see that? That's the work that I do. I use a framework. It's very long now. People used to say biopsychosocial, but that actually is very limited. So it's the biopsychosocial um, environmental, cultural, ancestral framework. So it really takes into account what's going on inside someone and also what's happened along the way ancestrally and familially and where they live and what they have to contend with depending on gender, race, uh, different kinds of predilections and where they live in this world and what they have to face and the impact on them. There's a great impact. So that's my background. I also am writing a book on healing, and hopefully, maybe in a year, it'll be out. It might be called Lessons in Psychotherapy, Creating Hope and Healing. It might be called Sacred Sanctuary. So just listen but it's about looking at healing from a very broad and deep perspective, and that it's possible to heal. And what that means, it doesn't mean cure, it means living a full life and with vibrancy and authenticity. Um, I do a Monday night poetry, and that's open. It's on Zoom. It's open to everyone around the world. It's very exciting. We started it in during the pandemic because people just needed community, right? We were all sequestered and needing to hunker down, and we were lonely, and we were missing our people, right? And so I'm thinking it's so silly back then when I said, "Oh, we'll just." Let me start a poetry group online for a month or so, and then, we'll be back. And so we know what happened there. We were sequestered for 2 years or whatever. That was in 2020, and we've been doing this group. Even when I said, maybe, does everyone want to stop? We have 75 people on our listserv, started with 6 or 7. And they said, no, no. And when I'm out of town, other people in the community host, and you've hosted and different people host. And it's wonderful. So it's a real community every week, every Monday, if anyone wants to join. And we grapple with what's happening in the world. We grapple with how we're doing. We grapple with our feelings. And that's my beautiful Maggie in the background. And creative arts and giving people space to say what they need to say and feel what they need to feel and be seen by loving, caring people is healing. It's medicine, right? So I believe in writing and painting and dancing, and all of the arts helps us think in a different way and reset our nervous system. And given everything that's going on right now, and I'm talking about just people are afraid, people are feeling divided. No matter who anyone voted for, we are in a stage in the world where people are scared. Our nervous systems are out of whack. And, I'm resetting myself every single hour when I see someone, and then I go and I dance or I move or I do qigong, or I just pause. And I'm doing that in my sessions all day long because we all need to find some semblance of, do I feel safe in my body? Do I feel safe with the person I'm talking with? Can I say what's really on my mind? Or is someone going to point a finger or say, I don't believe that? Or can we listen to one another again, right? Can we just see the pearl in what someone else is saying and see that maybe we're all wanting love and connection? And so that's a long answer to who am I and what I'm about. And I want to say something about sacred activism, and then please ask me a question
I will
because
be.
I can talk for hours. Sacred activism to me, what comes up when I hear that is when a group of folks, including my husband, went to Standing Rock a few years ago when they were having their protests. And I stayed home actually because there was a big snowstorm, and I was the one who was making sure everyone was getting to where they needed to be. So I was by the phone coordinating things from home. And my husband and a few friends went to Standing Rock and right in South Dakota. And what they learned, what they brought back was the most incredible, important wisdom, which was there wasn't yelling, there wasn't screaming, there was a connection to land and something greater than themselves, whether we call it God or divine love or the creator or community. There was a connection to something greater than each individual person, and there was ceremony and there was deep heart, and they were fierce. They were fierce, and you cannot build a pipeline on our sacred land and ruin our water and the water for all of you. You cannot do that. But they didn't do it by yelling and screaming and hurting anyone. They did it by standing tall and having ceremony and singing. And there was beauty and there was teaching. The children were all involved, and there was talking about why this is important, and people sat in circle and really got engaged. And when I think of sacred activism, I that really informed me and how I want to show up now during these times.
And you do. You do. And I appreciate that, having known you for, I don't even know how many years, 15 years maybe. But you do. You collaborate with people and one of the persons that we used to have in the workshops I would attend with you was Meryl Farnsworth, who has passed into another space and time years ago. And Tobi is partly carrying some of the writing circle and art and soul traditions for Meryl because she told her to before she died.
Mhm. She did.
We loved her. And I also want to just tell you, if you'll look up Art and Soul on in Nashville, Google it, and you'll find the website. You can find all sorts of classes, information about Art and Soul, and you can donate. So I want to say that since you're here. Also, I want to say that I was part of your writing Monday Night Circle for a couple of years until my mother had a stroke and then died. And I have not been back since, but I get the email with all the writings every week and post some of them on Facebook because they're so beautiful and this community of people. They helped me through COVID for certain, and I still love each one of them today. And I told Toby when I first started attending that circle, I said, I can't write at night. Nighttime for me is really testing. And then I got into it, and then I needed to take a break from my practice as well as from Nashville. And I spent the last couple of years doing all sorts of wonderful, freeing, liberating kinds of meditative practices. And so I want to thank you for being such a role model. And I want to tell one other story, Toby. We were at some party. I think I know where it was, near Sevier Park. Anyway, it might have been a friend's house. And I remember we were at this party, and I don't know why I'm telling this, so we'll figure out why I'm telling this story. Toby knew me pretty well, but she came up to one point and you said, Barbara, it's like you are almost there. You're almost there. And like if you go to a vision quest or something, or one of these, intensive practices, I mean, you were really coaching me at this party, and it was like I believed you, and I knew it to be true. It was like I was growing and evolving in my own ways, but I had to quit working so hard before I could really get to the place I wanted to be, which is now in the last few years. And I really appreciated your being able to blurt that out
Oh my God, that's
and to tell me what
embarrassing.
I
And
needed.
also, I remember that. I remember that. I do. I remember that because sometimes I just see visions of people of their fullest self. And I saw that you were dancing and there was this freedom and you were almost there. There was this holding back, and I'm like, do it, Barbara, you're so glorious. Just get out there and just be. Oh, so thank you for hearing
And
that
I have
and
learned
in
since.
the loving way I hope it came
Was loving. It was very loving. And I know you do that for your clients and customers.
across.
I don't know what you've been doing lately, but I think you've trained a lot of medical people also in integrative health, which I really appreciate. And so I would like to say one more thing about sacred activism and see what you think about my little bit more global, not global, meta or something. I think of sacred activism, and you taught me this too, and everything I've done with you is really about our own healing first. We can only do that in community really sometimes. And sometimes we have to go off and be alone or with other people that are in practices and trainings. But that we need to, as women in particular, but men too, focus internally, as you said, with this sacred activism that your husband went to and you were coordinating. It's like it's all about connection, and it's about connection within. And once we get that, which is hard to find sometimes, then we can connect so much more deeply and honestly and authentically with other people. And then we can even help the world more. Like I was always an activist. I was out there protesting, take back the night in Nashville in my 30s and 20s and all these other things. And I did that kind of action because I was a doer also. And now I don't do that, but I think it's about our own healing, and we've got to take the time and space to do that. And I think you've been helpful with so many people, getting them to be able to get to the point that they can be sacred activists too. In whatever profession they're in, whatever actions they take, it's more about a an attitude, a spiritual presence, something about that. What do you think about that?
Brilliant. I think that's it's brilliant. It's wonderful. It's so important. I'm with you on that. One of my teachers, I never got to meet him in person. I did online trainings with him and read every one of his books. And I've been a student of Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh was the most incredible Vietnamese Buddhist monk who, during the Vietnam War, when he was in Vietnam, right, and he saw the bombs bursting and hurting his people and hurting the land. I mean, just killing everything. He didn't just pray for his people. He was praying for all of the soldiers, the other Vietnamese soldiers, and he was praying for the American soldiers who were also in the war. He was praying for everyone to have peace and to open their hearts and to stop war. And when I heard that, right, there's incredible amount. How can someone be so forgiving, loving, give grace? And the only way he could do that was he said he would pray for his own salvation, he would pray for his own heart, he would pray for his own peace for hours every day. And then he was able to see the world through another person's eyes and really have true compassion and empathy for what they must be going through and what they will go through when they come home after being in war and being a soldier, right? And when you're a veteran and all of the PTSD that people go through. So to be able to do your own work is essential. And I think it's so important that we teach children to have quiet, right? We're in a busy, overstimulated culture right now, very overstimulated, where we have to have 50 toys and things going on, and we're on our phones and all of this happening. I've grandkids and I watch them, and the most wonderful thing is when they go outside and we don't bring anything with us and we don't bring any screens, we don't bring phones, and we're climbing a tree. They're different kids, right? They're curious and they're investigating things and they're present, they're fully present. And so when we learn to quiet the chatter, which takes time when we haven't learned it, if we haven't had practice in it, right? It takes practice to get quiet and be willing and able to be with our own thoughts and feelings, because that's scary sometimes. Our own thoughts and feelings aren't so pretty. We humans have a lot of judgment, sometimes about others, many times about ourselves. So we're always judging, am I doing this right? And I'm not wearing the right outfit. And oh, I'm breathing too loud or whatever we're thinking. And it takes a long time. And I think some guides, teachers and guides, to say, you're doing great. 2 minutes. Let's be quiet for, I do this with my patients all the time. Let's just be quiet for 3 breaths. I did that with I work with residents at USC. So my other job is, besides a private practice, is I'm the GME wellness director for our residents and fellows at USC LA General County Hospital. And so we have 1,000 trainees. I have a team now. It used to be just me. I do have a team of 4 of us. But we have 1,000 residents and fellows. And they are young, enthusiastic, amazing, and brilliant people who want to be helping people, right? They want to be at this institution that takes care of very underserved population, very under-resourced area, and they see a lot of hard things, right? So it really hurts their heart. And so just to help them know how to digest everything and not shut off who they are, to actually lean into who they are so they can bring their full selves to be a healer, right? I want a physician, I want a person that I go to for help to connect with me. And, even if I need surgery, I went to the most amazing hand surgeon when I was at Vanderbilt. I needed surgery. And we joked that after we talked, and he was amazing and wonderful and skilled, one of the best in the country. And he had a great personality and he really saw me and he asked me how I was doing. And I said, you have a great bedside manner for a surgeon. And he said, that's really funny. And yes, I do. And thank you for singing that. And I've worked really hard on that. Like that's what he said. He said, I worked really hard because I wanted to still have my heart when I went home and I saw my kids and I would, right? So sacred activism, to wind it back to that, is we do have to find those places that are beautiful and sacred in ourselves, to remember that we are sacred beings, then take it out into the world, right? So the other thing Thich Nhat Hanh used to say was, yes, meditate or do whatever you need to do to quiet everything, and then get off the cushion and get in the world and take it there. And that's, I think, the other piece that we have to remember is it's great to do yoga, it's great to be quiet, it's great to meditate, great to dance. And then can you take that energy and vibrancy and love and take it out into the world? That's sacred activism, right? That's why my retreat next week at Art and Soul is called Love Revolution. I did a painting and it had Love Revolution in it. And I was looking at it one day when I was thinking, what do I want to title this particular workshop? I said, well, I'm going to call it Love Revolution because the time is calling for us,
Yeah.
right? To have a revolution of incredible, deep compassion and connection and being real and present. And I think it's a love revolution for ourselves, for each other, for the earth. The earth desperately needs us to love her again. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. And I'm so excited I get to come to your workshop.
Yes,
Toby
yes.
comes back to Nashville maybe a couple times a year to do this.
Yeah, I come back
I was,
twice a year.
I was trying to think of the names they used to be. Okay, so was one Sacred and Sassy, one of these workshops? The names,
Yeah, Sacred and Sassy, Grace and Beauty. Um,
we
called it all kinds of
Yeah, anyway, it's been an ongoing throughout the last several years type of workshop that she and Meryl did. And it's about being a wild woman too.
Crazy Brave,
Crazy
Crazy
Brave.
Brave
That
for
was
a
one.
few
Yes.
years. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
right. And again, it's about we have all these doubts about ourselves. We have all these messages from the outside, from school, from maybe some religious organizations, or from just our own mind and our culture that we're in, right? That we're not enough. We have to do more. We have to be more. We have to be skinnier or taller or darker hair or whatever rather than who am I and what do I bring to the table, right? When you look at nature, and I do a lot of nature-based therapy with people, and I take them out and on retreats or just for an hour, we take a walk in our session. And nature is so, of course, gorgeous and intelligent in that the more there is diversity, the more it is healthy. Right. And we know that in any ecosystem, every single being, the insects, the water, the trees, the birds that come, the squirrel that bites the seed that allows a plant to grow, every single being is needed. And I think that's true about people. And if we actually remembered that, wouldn't we be more loving towards each other and take care of one another and not push people away and or be so afraid of someone who maybe looks different from us or sounds different from us.
We would hope so. We would hope so. And
My hope. That is my hope.
we haven't used the word trauma yet, but partly, as you know, so many people in this world, I guess always, but now we know so much more about trauma, have been traumatized. Like I had a father who fought in two world wars, Korean War and the World War, and I was a Marine pilot. So anyway, just to say we've all had our own kinds of trauma, and what happens generationally, as you know, is that trauma is in our DNA, and that's the ancestral part of it. And I think one of the healing practices that I really enjoy, besides meditative and silent practices and singing and dancing and stuff, is the community, which you have always encouraged, a community to come together in intimate and safe settings in order to share with each other on as intimate a level as we want to. Nothing is demanded or, mandatory, but I've always gathered groups around me in order to have that for myself, not for work, but just to have a community around me so that I can gather people and help us all share. And unfortunately, it's not as diverse in some ways as it could be. And I'll just say this once, and our nation is so trying to squash diversity and get rid of all the people who are different, as you say, except white men. And even women are getting, terribly treated. And people get hopeless about that. And I'm not hopeless because I can go to a place where I can be safe myself, but that was not always true. And I think we have grown up with so much fear and rage, and we have so much modeled around us from our leaders and just other people, and so much violence too. We hadn't mentioned that word. And it's hard to even learn how to be nonviolent. How do you even communicate without saying you just pissed me off or hurt my feelings when it's a projection. First of all, we're putting that on someone instead of taking any responsibility for how we interpreted their message. There's a lot going on. I'm going to be a preacher, really, is what I'm going to be.
That's right. Preach it. Preach it.
Preach.
Well, to respond to that, I learned again through some of my teachers from other cultures, and particularly some indigenous cultures. I have a Guatemalan teacher, I had a Peruvian teacher, a teacher from the Cherokee tribe. I actually am a supporter of Lakota Sundance every year, and through all of those teachers, and I honor every one of them. Through all of those teachers, I have learned that in the Western world, when someone is struggling, we go behind closed doors, we talk to a primary care physician, or we talk to a nurse, or we talk to a therapist, and it's all behind closed doors. And I'm not saying don't do that. There's a time and place where you need an individual session. I mean, I do lots of individual sessions. However, there's sometimes there's a shame involved in that, right? Someone thinks I'm broken, something's wrong with me, please, fix me, rather than a community approach where, again, in other cultures, if someone is struggling with depression, if someone is struggling with PTSD, if someone is struggling with a medical condition, they might have individual meetings with their medicine man or medicine woman. They also always have a group, community, family, best friends, whoever sees you on a daily basis. They gather all of them together so that they're part of the healing, that they take the responsibility of holding that person in getting better. And that's a remarkable change in how we look at struggle and affliction, right? And it actually has been shown in many circumstances and some great research studies that when that happens, people with schizophrenia get so much better, and people with depression don't have recurrence because they're actually held and they're given a job, and not a job that is taxing on them. And I mean, there's just a different approach to holding each other, right? And the community feels good because they're also taking responsibility for their loved one, their colleague, their friend, their neighbor, right? So it's all very neighborly. So I think that taught me a lot. And then one of my teachers that I've been working with since 2010, Dina Metzger, she's a therapist and a medicine woman and a published writer. She's here in Topanga Canyon in Los Angeles. And I've been in training with her, and we convene healings once a month called Dare. You can go on her website, Dina Metzger. What's remarkable is that part of the trainings is something that she calls the 19 ways. And one of the 19 ways is the no enemy way, like how to live the no enemy way. And every year we choose one or two of the 19 ways that we really focus on. And every year I focus on something, like it might be spirit exists or community heals. But I always add the no enemy way because it's the hardest one. Because that means no one, no being, no creature, not a tick, not a mosquito, not anyone who has different views than I do, no one is an enemy. You have to look beyond what they're doing and see that maybe when they were a precious little child, they were this precious little child, and then something happened and went awry, and now they're doing these horrible things. And so it's actually helped me be a sacred activist because um, I refuse to enter into banter of this person is horrible or us, they, them, meaning me against you. That's what I mean by that. Not the pronouns. I'm all for all pronouns. So it's when it's me against you, her against this person, this side against that side, that gets us nowhere. That gets us nowhere. So I get it. I understand it. I can feel it. And so I can empathize when, and I have that in my head a lot of time. And then I have to go, okay, wait a minute. That will help nothing. So what would it mean in this instance for the no enemy way? So I've had extremely beautiful and poignant experiences by doing that, where someone had very different views than I did and expected me to go, what do you mean? And and fight back. And I really felt the no enemy way. I'm like, I'm not gonna fight back. I'm gonna state what I think, but I'm going to be curious and try to have a conversation. And I did. And I said, tell me why you feel that way. I don't understand it, but I want to. And they said a little bit more. And I heard their fear. I heard some of their own personal experiences with which got them to where they are. And so then I said, do you want to hear some of my experiences and why I'm feeling the way I feel and why I try to protect people and all that? And they actually said yes, because I think my approach was more open and I tried to be loving and approachable. And we had a conversation and we didn't end up enemies at the end of that conversation. We actually both, I think, moved a little bit towards, oh, I get it why you're I don't agree and I'm not going to do what you're doing, but I get why you're feeling that way. And the other person in this particular instance doesn't always happen this way, but in this particular instance, this person said, "Wow, I didn't think about how some of the laws happening right now might affect so and so and so and so. I never thought about that. I'm so sorry. Wow." And they're going to think now a little bit differently. And so that wouldn't have happened if I came back with, I part of my mantra, one of my mantras is put my weapons down. Let's put our weapons down. And that means war weapons, it means internal weapons, it means our fighting words, weapons, and I actually had a dream. And I'm a big dreamer and I'm a community dreamer. I dream a lot of messages and this is funny. I dream billboards. I think some of them will be in my book. I'm literally in a car and I'm driving up to a billboard and the billboard says something really profound that I would never come up with myself. So one of the billboards, I think I have 17 now over the last 5 years. One of the billboards was put your weapons down. Another billboard was stop all poison. Stop all poison. That's a tall order. And we have to, if we're going to save the planet, we have to stop poison, poison in our head, poison that we put on the ground. I mean, profound. I would never come up with that on my own. Stop all poison. Are you kidding me? Well, how am I going to do that?
That's how you listen. And I will say about the example you just gave with that person that you were had different ideas, you listened first.
I
And I
did.
like that. You listened first so that they felt a little bit held, understood, that you sort of could have some compassion or understand them a little bit so that then when you asked, would you like to hear my experience, they were able to do that. And I'll say one more thing about the no enemy. Is that what you said? No
Oh,
enemy?
anyway, yeah.
Especially toward ourselves. And put your weapons down toward yourself.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is all the interconnectedness that some of us feel with all of Mother Nature, all of every living being, all space, galactic stuff. I mean, under the ground, in the oceans and the seas, all living creatures. I don't know how we get people there, but if we all could believe that we're interconnected, and when one person does one thing, it does ripple across the universe, out
Yeah.
of the cosmos, and
Yeah.
can be destroying to certain places. I mean, we can't 24 hours a day, every minute, think about those things, or we kind of would go crazy. But as a way, a practice of life, if we can notice and be
It's
aware.
just a way of, it's just a way of being, not just, it's a way of being. It's a way of approaching, just knowing. Like I used to have to remind myself, we're all connected and I care about the planet. It's now just, this is how I walk in the world, and we could all get there.
And it
We
takes a
could
long
all
time
get there.
with a
And
lot
it
of
takes
practice.
a long time and practice and being held by
Mhm.
people who believe that you can get there. Like,
Right.
you know, Dina Metzger, God bless her, to the ends of the earth. When I would say, I'm never going to get there. And how did you get to where you were? And she'd say, of course you're going to get there. Like there was no doubt in her mind. And of course you're going to get there. And and I'm getting there. I don't think we ever get there, but I'm getting there, and I'm determined, I'm devoted to keep coming back to a heart-centered place, because if we don't do that, what is the option?
Mhm.
What is the option? It's not a very good one.
Right. And I think that goes back to what you did with me at that party so many years ago. It's like you were maybe being suggestive and recommending, but you were doing it in such a way that I could hear it. Like that I felt cared about, and that you saw something in me that I could do more of, or liberate myself better about, or something that would free me up, number one. And until I'm free, nobody's free. So like if mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Right.
So you have always been very encouraging, and I watch you work with other people in these groups and workshops that I'm with. And I'm not just going to flatter you, because it's not about flattery, but it's about, you're one of the few people I know who can, maybe like Dina, I don't know her, but help everybody that's around you get in touch with themselves and become more compassionate, loving human beings, with your practices, with the guidance and teaching that you give, and with the connection that you get with people that you support and engage with at a deep level. And
Thank
I
you.
thank you for that, because you're really good at that, and you've worked hard to get there. I hate to call it work, but healing is work, and it takes a lot of practice. And I'm so glad it's all sort of integrated, or not,
And
and
if
it's
we
still
don't
growing.
do the right, and if we don't do the journey, we really are offering a small portion of who we are and what we can do, right? I had to be on a healing journey. I've had great teachers, great therapists, great guides. I've been in nature. I've had people hold me. Art and soul, art and soul saved my heart at a very challenging time in my life, and it is a place that held me, where they believed that I could paint and draw, and whether it was good or not, it was, can you be authentic? Yes. Can you be in your heart? Yes. Can we love you when you splatter red all over and you were blindfolded? That was one of the first practices I ever did. I said, what kind of place am I going to? And it was so freeing, right? So that's part of it, is learning to take all the judgment away, and you're going to be held in this supportive, loving community. And don't we all need that? We all need that. Anyone who can go to Art and Soul, I cannot say enough about that. And I want to say also that when I was at Vanderbilt, when I was in Nashville, I co-founded the Osher Center for Integrative Health. And it is a place that is filled with clinicians who are loving and giving. They're all smart and skilled. And we hired people who were loving and giving, and offered a different view of what was possible, that people can have chronic illness and chronic pain and all kinds of aches and pains. And you're in groups, and you see a physician, and you see a psychologist, you see an acupuncturist. It's a very powerful, beautiful model that is now, there are 73 healthcare centers in our country, Canada, and Mexico, that are part of a consortium of places where people can go and get healing in a place that sees you as a whole person, that not as a broken person, but as a person who has an affliction and you can get well.
Yes, and it's not pathology. It is
It's
not
not
that.
pathology. It is everyone has afflictions. Let's see what yours is, where it came from, what might be holding you back, and how can we hold you in being your best self, right? So I saw you as your best self even before you I saw wings. I remember I said you have wings. You have
I didn't remember that. Thank you. I love birds. I love
wings.
wings. Thank you. I didn't remember that one. What
I
else do
have
you
a
want to say?
website. I want to just say, I'm just really proud of it's called Sacred Journeying. So it's Toby Fishel Sacred Journeying. And it I think it took me a long time to design it and write what's on there. It's probably not up to date because I'm not good about that. But what I hope if anyone goes to the website sees me and not like therapist me, but I show me as a person. I'm painting on the website, and I have pictures of me traveling and the different workshops I do and different talks I've done and just my philosophy. And I do believe that healing is a sacred journey that we can take responsibility for and also ask for support and help because we can't do it alone, right, Barbara? I mean, we've all had the most amazing communities and teachers and guides. And we've talked about we've had peer supervision with each other. We've painted with our good friend Tammy Roth. We've written poetry. We've danced with each other. And from that, we found really we found our wings, right?
And our essence in
Our,
a less cloudy way than we knew it before,
right,
perhaps. So,
right, right, right,
can
right.
I get your website's name so I can put it in our
Toby Fishel, sacredjourneying.com.
sacredjourneying.com with ing, and I
Yeah.
will put that in the YouTube thing so
I would
everybody
love,
can go to
I'd,
it.
I'd love for people, especially clinicians, therapists, to see that it is possible to be more authentic. And I think it actually, I'm not saying cross terrible boundaries. I'm saying be authentic with your work so that people see that I don't want to tell anyone that I'm perfect because I'm not, or I have it all together because I don't. And have we all struggled? Yes. And also, so someone could be a human and still do hard work and offer something important to the world. And I think everyone who I work with, I want them to see that in themselves too.
Yeah, and to know that we're just human and we do make mistakes and we do hurt people without meaning to. When we
Right.
say,
And then we can actually come back, right? And restore and repair. Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
we agree on a lot of this, Toby Fishel.
Oh, this has been so great. Oh, I hope everyone out there has a beautiful day. I am dancing I'm dancing 20 minutes every morning to reset my nervous system. I want to encourage everyone to boogie, to get out there, to move their bodies, and to also share some love with their friends, like we did today.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate your doing this for me. And come back if you ever want to talk again. And I
Yeah,
want to go to California someday and see you. And
that would be wonderful.
yeah, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And
Yay!
thank you. This is wonderful. If anybody has any questions for Toby, if you can't find her, ask me and I'll get you in touch with her.
And you could email me, mudwomanarts@gmail.com.
Okay,
Yep,
mudwomanarts@gmail.com.
yep.
Thank you, Toby, and I will see you soon.
Okay,
To it.
bye.
Bye. Take care.